Hi everybody. In this video, we are going to learn about the parenteral nutrition. Nutrition is the essential component for the regular healthy functioning of human body. The food which we eat will pass through the gastrointestinal tract and undergo many processes like digestion, metabolism, and the nutrients will enter into the bloodstream. If a patient is unable to take food orally, then the food can be administered directly into the gastrointestinal tract through nasogastric tube, nasoduodenal tube, nasojejunal tube, and also through gastrostomy and jejunostomy. When the food is taken orally or administered through tube feeding directly into the gastrointestinal system, it is called as enteral feeding. When the gastrointestinal system is not suitable or unable to process the food, then the needed nutrients are administered directly into the bloodstream. This is called as parenteral nutrition. Parenteral nutrition is defined as the infusion of complete nutrient solutions into the bloodstream via a peripheral vein or more commonly by central venous access to meet nutritional needs. Indications: patients who cannot tolerate enteral nutrition because of paralytic ileus, intestinal obstruction, acute pancreatitis, inflammatory bowel disease, gastrointestinal fistula, severe diarrhea, persistent vomiting, malabsorption. Parenteral nutrition also indicated for hypermetabolic states for which enteral therapy either not possible or inadequate, like severe burns, nil per oral for more than 10 days in prolonged postoperative ileus, acute renal failure, multiple fractures, sepsis, tumor in gastrointestinal tract, and also patients at risk for malnutrition like gross underweight, metastatic cancer. Also, it is indicated for specific disorders like tracheoesophageal fistula, duodenal atresia, cystic fibrosis, meconium ileus, diaphragmatic hernia, valvulus, malrotation of gut, and aneural pancreas. The contraindications for total parenteral nutrition are patients with normally functioning gastrointestinal tract. Patients' gastrointestinal tract function can be resumed within 10 days of time, and it is inappropriate in certain patient conditions like poor prognosis and risk for parenteral nutrition overweight than the benefits of parenteral nutrition. The common sites for parenteral feeding is peripheral venous line and central venous line. Peripheral parenteral nutrition. This parenteral formula combines carbohydrates, a lesser concentrated glucose solution with amino acids, vitamins and minerals. The solution is lower in nutrient and calorie content than total parenteral nutrition. Formulation osmolarity is less than 600 to 900 milliosmol per liter. Total parenteral nutrition. Intravenous administration of varying combinations of hypertonic or isotonic glucose, lipids, amino acid, electrolytes, vitamins and trace elements through a venous access device directly into the intravascular fluid to provide nutrients for patients who are unable to receive adequate nutrition through gastrointestinal tract. Osmolarity of total parenteral nutrition fluid is more than 700 milliosmol per liter. Types of parenteral solutions: standard IV therapy, total parenteral nutrition, protein sparing therapy, total nutrient admixture, peripheral parenteral nutrition. Standard IV therapy. This solution contains dextrose, water, electrolytes in varying amount and vitamins as per order. It is commonly used for less than 1 week nutrition source. It maintains hydration and facilitate and maintain the normal metabolic function. But it is a incomplete nutrition, so it is not sufficient to maintain adequate nutritional status for a longer period of time. Total parenteral nutrition. This solution containing dextrose 15 to 25%, crystalline amino acids 2.5 to 8.5%, electrolytes, vitamins, trace elements and insulin according to the order, lipid emulsion 10% to 20% as a separate solution. It is more useful for patients those who need nutritional support more than 2 weeks of time, patient with large caloric and nutritional need. It provides calories, restores nitrogen balance and replaces essential vitamins, electrolytes, minerals and trace elements. It helps to promote tissue synthesis, wound healing and normal metabolic function is maintained. It allows bowel reset and healing, reduce the activity in gallbladder, pancreas and small intestine. In this, the basic solution is nutritionally complete. It requires central venous line for administration. It is highly hypertonic solution. It may lead to metabolic complications. The IV lipid emulsions may not be much effective in burns cases, may interfere with immune mechanism and it can irritate the peripheral line, so it has to be administered through the central venous line. Protein sparing therapy. This solution contains crystalline amino acids 2.5% to 8.5%, electrolytes, vitamins, trace elements and insulin as ordered. The uses are: it can be used for 2 weeks or less than that. It preserves body protein in a stable patient and also augments oral and tube feeding. It is the complete nutrition, may started and stopped at any time during hospital stay. It can be administered along with the other IV fluids, medication, blood products. There is less chance for phlebitis when we compare with the peripheral parenteral nutrition. Special formula may be needed for neonates and patients with renal and hepatic failure. Total nutrient admixture. This solution is prepared for 1 day. That is, 1 day nutrients are contained in a single package of 3-liter bag. It is combined with lipid emulsion and other parenteral components. It can be used for the nutritional support for 2 weeks or more than that. It is suitable for stable patients and the benefits are similar like total parenteral nutrition. It has less risk for contamination because of less handling. It is economic in time and material. It can increase mobility and easier adjustment to home care. Infusion device cannot be accurately measure this and also the filter block may happen. Peripheral parenteral nutrition. The solution contains 5% to 10% of dextrose, crystalline amino acids 2.5 to 5%, electrolytes, vitamins, trace elements and insulin as ordered. Lipid emulsion 10% to 20%. Heparin and hydrocortisone are added as per need. It is useful for providing nutritional support for 2 weeks or less. It provides up to 2000 calories per day. It maintains the hydration status. It is used in those who are susceptible for central venous catheter infection. Nutritionally, it is a complete one and it is not suitable for long-term usage, not suitable in case of patients with fluid restriction. It delivers less hypotonic solution. Risk for phlebitis is more and metabolic complications are less. The complications related to the total parenteral nutrition are classified as metabolic complications, mechanical complications, and other complications. Hepatic dysfunction. It will be manifested by elevation of serum aspartate, aminotransferase, alkaline phosphate, and bilirubin level. The interventions are reduce the calorie and dextrose intake and administer lipid emulsions. Change to cyclic infusion instead of continuous infusion. Use specific hepatic formula. Hyperglycemia. This may be manifested with fatigue, restlessness, confusion, anxiety, weakness, polyuria, dehydration, elevated blood glucose level, delirium, and coma. This can be rectified by restricting the dextrose and compensating with the lipid emulsion and start with the insulin therapy. Hyperosmolarity. It will be manifested with confusion, lethargy, schizus, hyperosmolar, hyperglycemic, non-ketotic syndrome, dehydration, and glucoseuria. The interventions are discontinue dextrose infusion, administer insulin, and half saline with potassium. Hypocalcemia. It may be manifested with confusion or memory loss, muscle spasm, numbness, weakness and muscle cramps and low calcium level in the blood. It can be treated with increasing the supplement of calcium. Hypoglycemia. The signs and symptoms are sweating, irritability when the parenteral feed is discontinued and low blood glucose level. The interventions are increase the dextrose intake and decrease the exogenous insulin intake. Hypokalemia. It will be identified with muscle weakness, paralysis, paresthesia and arrhythmias. Increase the potassium supplement to correct the problem. Hypomagnesemia. In this, the patient may develop tingling sensation around the mouth, paresthesia in fingers, mental changes, hyperreflexia. This can be rectified by increasing the magnesium supplement. Hypophosphatemia. It may be identified with the symptoms like irritability, weakness, paresthesia, coma, and respiratory arrest. The management can be done by increasing the phosphate supplement. Zinc deficiency. This may be manifested with dermatitis, alopecia, apathy, depression, taste changes, confusion, poor wound healing and diarrhea. It can be rectified with increasing the zinc supplement. Metabolic acidosis. It is manifested with elevated serum chloride level and reduced serum bicarbonate level. In this, need to increase the acetate and decrease chlorine level in parenteral nutrition. Metabolic alkalosis. It is identified with reduced serum chloride level and elevated serum bicarbonate level. In this, need to decrease the acetate and increase the chlorine level in the parenteral nutrition. Clotted intravenous catheter. This can be identified with interrupted flow rate, resistance to flushing, and blood withdrawal. The clot can be removed by attempt to aspirate the clot. If unsuccessful, use fibrolytic agent and clear the blockage. Cracked and broken tubing. In this, the fluid will be leaking from the tubing. To rectify that, change the tubing and bag according to the standard operation policy of the institution. Dislodged catheter. In this, the catheter has been came out of the vein. Immediately apply a sterile pressure dressing to the site where the insertion was done. Too rapid infusion. In this, the patient may have nausea, headache, and lethargy. In this, adjust the infusion rate and also check the infusion pump for the working condition. Air embolism. The patient may have apprehension, chest pain, tachycardia, cyanosis, seizures, loss of consciousness, decreased oxygen saturation, sudden respiratory distress, and even cardiac arrest. The interventions are: clamp the catheter, cover the incision site, treat in left Trendelenburg position, administer oxygen as ordered, and treat for cardiac arrest. Extravasation. In this, patient may have swelling and pain around the insertion site. To manage that, immediately stop the infusion, assess for cardiopulmonary abnormalities, and chest X-ray may be done. Phlebitis. There might be pain, tenderness, redness, and warmth around the insertion site. Immediately initiate the phlebitis management according to the institutional policy. Pneumothorax and hydrothorax. Patient may have dyspnea, chest pain, cyanosis, and decreased breath sounds. Immediately oxygen has to be applied and remove the central venous line. Chest tubing for drainage may be required and apply the suction if it is ordered. Septicemia or catheter-related bloodstream infection. It will be identified by red and swollen catheter site, chills, fever, and leukocytosis. To manage the condition, follow the aseptic technique, close monitoring of vital signs, obtain blood samples for culture, and treat the patient with the ordered antibiotic and replace the tubing according to the standard operation policy of the institution. Thrombosis. It can be identified with erythema and edema at insertion site, pain at insertion site along with vein, malaise, fever, tachycardia, and ipsilateral swelling of arm, neck, face, and upper chest. To manage this condition, remove the catheter immediately. If not contraindicated, systemic thrombolytic therapy can be given. Venous flow study may be done. Refeeding syndrome. It occurs 24 to 48 hours of time. Shift of water, glucose, potassium, phosphate, and magnesium back into the cell may lead to muscle weakness, respiratory failure, paralysis, coma, cranial nerve palsy, and rebound hypoglycemia. To manage this, adjust the flow rate as per the severity. Initiate the parenteral feeding slowly and titrate up to 4 to 7 days and close monitoring of electrolytes. The nurse's responsibilities during administration of total parenteral nutrition is monitor the vital signs, observing for signs of infection such as elevated temperature because bacteria may grow in high glucose and high protein solutions. Use strict aseptic technique with IV tubing, dressing changes and total parenteral nutrition solution and refrigerate solution until 30 minutes before using. Infusion site is at risk for development of infection. Monitor blood glucose levels. Observe for signs of hyperglycemia or hypoglycemia and administer insulin as directed. Blood glucose levels may be affected if total parenteral nutrition is turned off, if the rate is reduced, or if excessive level of insulin are added to the solution. Monitor for the signs of fluid overload. Total parenteral nutrition is a hypertonic solution and can create intravascular shifting of extracellular fluid. Monitor the patient for renal status, that is intake and output ratio, daily weight monitoring, and laboratory studies such as serum creatinine and blood urea nitrogen are used to assess the renal function. Maintain accurate infusion rate. With the infusion pump, make rate changes gradually and never discontinue total parenteral nutrition abruptly. Abrupt discontinuation may cause hypoglycemia, and a sudden change in flow rate can cause fluctuations in the blood glucose levels. I hope you all have understood about the total parenteral nutrition. Thank you.